All right, welcome again, Mr. Joel Imogrede Omage. All right, welcome to today's episode. We're so excited to hear all about your journey with EB2 NIW. All right, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Joel Omage. I'm
Okay.
from Nigeria. I had my first degree in biochemistry back home in Nigeria. And
Mhm.
then I moved to the US for my master's degree in chemistry.
Okay.
After that, I got a research position at Vanderbilt University Medical Center, where I worked for almost 2 years. Doing research, related to pregnant women. And
Okay.
then after that, I moved on into the industry from academia. We are
Mhm.
currently working as a research scientist, researching in cardiovascular disease. So
Okay.
my research is all about early drug discovery for the
Okay.
development of drug against obesity specifically.
All right. So, when you found out about the EB2NIW process, how did you decide what you were going to propose? So, you had this 3 years of experience as a research scientist in a intensive institution, but then you'd moved to a new position where you didn't have a lot of experience. You're just starting out your job. How did you decide that you were going to propose what you were doing in industry as opposed to the 3 years that you had spent doing something else?
I think that's an excellent question. So for me, I was looking at the greatest need
Mm-hmm.
because I know whatever you wanted to propose should be something that is beneficial to the United States. And
Right.
when I did my research, I found out that cardiovascular disease is a major cause of death in
Okay.
the US. And so I realized that that is an unmet need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of research is welcome, for interested scientists. And then
Right.
that I could actually, come up with a very convincing, persuasive case. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I think that would be convincing enough for them to like, okay, we need this guy, we need this research scientist to be working in the United States because we have a lot of people who are suffering from obesity, diabetes, and we need a lot more people, a lot more hands. So I felt that that would be really convincing compared to what other research I've done are equally good. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think they're as pressing, when it comes to needs, in the US right now.
Okay. And I think one of the clever ways that you can actually incorporate the other research that you've done is to talk about that in regards to your previous endeavors, right? So if you talk about the fact that, oh, I've been successful doing other research, I think that that makes you stand out even to be successful in the future, right? So that's a good one. So now I know a lot of people want to know how you stand out. So the first thing is there's a misconception that you have to have a PhD for this process. And you're telling us that you have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, right? So did that stop you? Did you feel like you had to do a PhD, or was there ever a time you were like, you know what, maybe I should go enroll in the PhD program just to make myself stand out?
No, I didn't think about at some point, let me be honest, at some point I thought about that.
Okay.
But that is why information is important. I even think on your social media platform, you keep saying that. And I
Yeah.
think it's also clear too, on their website, you need an advanced degree. That could be a master's, um,
Exactly.
PhD. And so
Mm-hmm.
I knew from the onset, okay, after getting a lot of information from your website, from their own website, and
Exactly.
from the testimonies of a lot of persons, who have tried it with master's degree. So I felt like I had what it takes, with all the credentials to actually give it a shot.
So let's talk about one of the elephants in the room, which is publications. So I get a lot of questions about publications. Everybody wants to know, how many publications do I need? How many citations do I need? It's a big question. And we've seen people, I mean, we've helped people that have gone from zero publications to people who have like 50 publications, right? So there is no one size fits all number that, would represent what everybody needs to have. One of the things that you shared with me was the fact that when you graduated from your master's degree in chemistry, you didn't necessarily have a lot of publications. But tell us some of the strategies that you used to make sure that at least you had, since you were going to be, working in research, tell us some of the things that you did to enable your publication numbers to go up.
So first of all, I knew that because there are different opportunities when you finish your program. Some
Right.
people just go directly to working for some getting technical positions, working in places that are not really institution like research institution based. So what I did was to like get in work as a research assistant where I could like do more research and increase my chances of publication. That was one. Number
Okay.
two, I needed to network.
Mhm.
I've met a couple of persons, during my time, doing my master's program, like my postdoc. I earlier mentioned that
Mhm.
I knew this guy is publishing a lot of papers. So I reached out to him. I wanted to collaborate. I told him I wanted to be first author,
Mhm.
and that was how we came up with our publication regarding, early detection of cancer, using
Okay.
diagnostic. So that was also a cool research that we did. It didn't take us much time. So I did that. Another thing I did, even where I was doing research at Vanderbilt, I also was looking out for opportunity to also get my name on, publications. That was I
Yeah.
reached out to Lisa Rogers. She said, okay, they are working on something. Okay, what can I do? You know,
Mm.
of course, I found something and then I contributed. What I did, I don't think was more than 15 or 10, I don't think it was up to 20% contribution into that work. I just did some research just to
Right.
yeah, for the paper, and then I got my name on that paper. So I think what people can do is just to seek for opportunities of collaboration, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
on paper. So that was one thing I did. Another thing I did, I think you also told me that judging other people's work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So in that case, what I did, since I couldn't really find an opportunity for that until recently, because I've done that now even after my NIW approval.
Mhm. Mhm.
What I did was to find ways where I could like contribute,
Okay.
and that was how I found that Shine mentoring program. I started off as a mentee. Today,
Mhm.
by the time I applied, I was already a mentor. And it was also biotech science related, because we're
Mhm.
reaching out to STEM graduates, undergraduates, and then we're trying to coach them and help
Right.
them get into the industry. This is also a huge contribution, in
Mhm.
the US, because this is not just to African Americans alone.
Mhm.
This is to all Americans, understand how to apply, how to, the interviewing process and all this, which is really, really beneficial to the US government. So all these put together really
Right.
improved chances or made me stand out.
All right. So you're saying eventually you had 3 publications, you had about 9 citations, and now you're trying to position yourself as an expert in this field to make your application look really good. I
Yeah.
really thank you for the nuggets that you shared, the keys that you share. One of the things I notice about you is the fact that you don't back down, right? You're a go getter. And I got that earlier on just from the conversations. So, I sit here and I do some consultations with people and I'm telling them, go out there, network, get recommenders. And they're telling me, oh, I don't want to bother people. And I'm like, that's not the spirit, Like, one of the key things I picked out that you said was network. You have, if you need it, if you want it, you have to go out and get it, right? And so
Absolutely.
that's one thing that you people have to, if you're going to take something from this podcast, you have to network. You have to get out there and get your name out there. One of the things I tell people is, if you don't have publications, how about you write a review article? It's so easy, right? Maybe it's easy
Yeah.
to me, I don't know, but I think it's easy because you don't have to do experiments. All you have to do is just write about what's in the literature, the latest trends in literature, and you have a publication. Okay, so you guys consider that. One of the other things that he did, he reached out to a former colleague and he collaborated on a paper. I think that's those things are really excellent. Let's talk about membership in professional societies. Are you a member of professional societies? If so, how many of them? And not just how many. Give us some ideas that someone who has who is a professional, who has a master's in chemistry, who is doing research in cardiovascular disease. What are some useful professional societies that person can join for the EBS process?
Yeah, so to answer your question, yes, I
Yep.
belong to 4 professional societies. So I'm a member in 4 of those. And so for the cardiovascular and metabolic diseases, the first time I joined Novartis Institute for Biomedical Research Institute, I remember my seed buddy, because we have seed buddies in the lab. He was like,
Okay.
oh, this wonderful organization, I think you need to join. It's really expensive, but it's paid out by the company. So really said, yeah,
Mhm.
and this the importance of that is that you have the opportunity to network with a lot of like top scientists in that field.
Oh
You know,
wow.
we usually have meetings once in a month, where there's free food and of course, people get to share ideas. And I was like, what is this society? So
Right.
you share the link with me, and the name for that is MassBio, Massachusetts, Biotechnology Council, something like
Okay.
that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
MassBio for sure. If you put that into Google, you find that. I think that is um, cool society to join. So I joined that, for my, for industry. And then before that, I remember there was this top one too. I also joined. It's called Sigma 11. I remember
Yeah.
you also suggested that to me, and I
Yeah.
later a recommendation to be a part of that. Remember, you also,
Because it's merit based. Yes,
yeah,
exactly. I remember
yeah.
that.
Remember, you also provided that recommendation to me then when I was on partner bit. So I think that is huge too.
Yeah,
I think anybody can join. I don't think it's just for biomedical scientists.
exactly.
Open.
Exactly.
That is also very important. If you're in STEM, you have STEM degrees like that. So
Okay.
another one I think is important for my own field, chemistry, is ACS, American Chemical Society. I think that
Okay.
is also very good.
Mhm.
Also another one I joined is called American Society for Reproductive Immunology. I also gave a presentation at the conference in 2022 May. You
Exactly.
know,
So
I
you brought up something very important because
yeah, I
people
bring
are
that.
saying, do you just
Yeah,
have to pay fees and join, or do you have to be actively involved in it? And I like that you said you actually presented something at the conference. So that's
yes,
really key.
I gave a
Yeah.
poster presentation there. So which is really cool. I didn't even know about that. It was, when it was getting closer, and we've
Yeah.
got a lot of data from the research of myself and my supervisor,
Yeah.
was working on. And we're like, oh, Joel, I need you to go to this conference. He's also going to. So we actually did something. I was the one doing the research. We had one research where we used zinc,
Okay.
to study the interaction between the bacteria we're working on and, more or less like host micro
Interaction.
interaction.
Hmm.
Exactly. And so I was doing both, the study on zinc and glucose. So he gave a presentation on zinc and I gave a presentation on glucose. So that was how I did that and I became a member of that society. So
Hmm.
I think it's really good to also be involved.
Absolutely, really good to be involved. I like that you had just mentorship qualities. I like that you had publications. I like that you had membership in professional societies. Can you just tell us when it was time to pick recommenders for this process, right? We discussed that okay, you have to go out there and pick professionals in your field, some of which can attest to the work you did in the past, but also some independent professionals as well. What informed your choice of recommenders? Like, how many recommenders did you use? What informed that number? And just how did you decide? Okay, I was going to pick this person versus the other person.
Yeah, so that is a very, very important question too for NIAA because a lot of people tell you, oh, you have better chances, when you go for, independent recommenders.
Yeah.
These people who don't know you, probably started your work, and
Yeah.
that is what people recommend actually. But for me, I used 6 recommenders, and just one was an independent recommender who started
Okay. Okay.
my cancer review paper. You
Okay.
know, but actually, I had more. Like I said, I had like about 9 citations. I reached out to a lot of them. Just that guy responded.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so there's nothing much I can do at this point, right? So I
Yeah.
said the others have to be, people that I know. But then I need to look for those people who are doing, doing founding, research in my field. The
Exactly.
guys, and I knew that there was one then at Vanderbilt, who was the chair. But the
Oh, the
good
department.
that's why networking is very important because
Exactly. You have to network.
I've connected with him. I've worked in his lab. Then when I was doing the preprint that we had, was from his lab. So when I spoke with Lisa said I needed to speak with him. So I spoke with Dave
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
and we had good rapport. He's a very nice person.
Yeah.
Even when he was leaving, I remember then I gave a speech, at the Sandford, I went to his home, so we've maintained this good connection. So I reached out to him. Of course, my supervisor, I think it's also important that you also include people you've worked with. You cannot get
Exactly.
people, especially independent recommenders, people you've worked with that can actually attest to what you've done, their standard research. It's also very helpful. So I reached out to my former supervisor at Vanderbilt,
Yeah.
was my current supervisor at Novartis, who is also an outstanding researcher.
Okay.
Then I reached out to also a very wonderful researcher from Vanderbilt.
Okay. So that came up to six. Okay.
That,
Those are really good. I mean, one of the things I'm taking away from this is you're saying you reached out, you didn't have necessarily six people initially that you reached out to. You reached out to more than six, way more than six. But you
yes,
went with the people that responded to you, right? And so that's another thing is don't if you need six I always tell people if you need six letters maybe ask 10 people because you don't want to be waiting on 10 people to respond. Once you get that number that you need, hey, just run with that. So I really like that you did that. Okay, so let's move on a little bit. So now you've decided that you're going to apply for EB2. You definitely knew you were going to apply. did you start the process by yourself, and how did you decide that, you know what, I need someone to, I need some extra help here? I mean, we know that EB2NIW you can self petition. That one is a given. But how did you decide that, you know what, I may want to outsource this?
Yeah, so for me, I think time was a big factor.
Time.
Time was a big factor for me. I knew I was really busy
Mm-hmm.
doing my research, which is a lot. And then, a program,
Yeah.
I mentioned that earlier, I was doing an MBA, which is also
Mm-hmm.
good for people who really want to do something else in the pharmaceutical industry, like take a different path, maybe work in business development. Because I was doing that, so I had very little time. And then the next thing that came to my mind, was, I know people are reaching out to law firms, but again, I was like, oh, who can I reach out to, who probably has experience in STEM?
Mm-hmm.
And that was when I decided I needed to outsource, this thing. And then you won't, well, like, oh, if you're going to outsource it, reach out to a law firm. I remember I already encountered, the CEO of EBTLIW one, of course,
Yeah.
so, and I knew, of course, that you are also in STEM.
Yeah.
Because again, EB2 is all about packaging too. You
Exactly.
have
More
all
people tell your story. Yeah.
it's good you have all these papers and stuff, but again, you need to tell a very good story, convince
Exactly. Exactly.
that will compare the whoever is looking at reviewing your application. So
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, this person deserves it.
Okay. All right. So that's excellent. I mean, I always tell people when I started this, channel talking about, I have a YouTube channel just talking about the EB2NIW process. When I initially started documenting that process, and of course that channel is called African Princess in America, way back when, I started that channel. But when I started the process, I would tell people I was preaching self-petition. That's what I was preaching. And I still do preach that. But I am also conscious of the fact that time is a big factor in a lot of people's lives. So,
Yeah.
for example, you may want to do everything yourself, but you have the time to do everything, right? So you have to be honest with yourself. If I really want to turn in my application in June, can I do that between now and June? So getting the help of someone who is knowledgeable in the process and who can help you write a compelling petition, I think, is very key. And so, I appreciate that you said, time was of the essence. I just needed to get this thing out. And I reached out to people who had the experience. Okay, so we put together the petition. You reached out. We had a consultation, and we talked about all these wonderful things. And we're ready to apply. When did you decide that you were going to do premium processing? I mean, no, premium processing is now available for EB2NIW, but it comes at a premium price, right? A whooping $2,500. Yeah. So how did you decide that, you know what, I'm going to take this chance? And of course, paying $2,500 doesn't mean you're going to get approved. It just means they're going to look at your application and try to give you an answer in 45 days. That answer could be no. It could be we want more evidence. It could be you're approved, right? So how did you decide that, you know what, I'm going to, I know it's, you may still come to time, but what was that thought process like for you?
Yeah, I know there are some international students who are currently working. I mean, when I mean international, people who are still on F1 OPT. So that is
OPT.
status right now.
Mm,
So I'm not a permanent resident. And of course, that is the reason I applied for EB2NIW. And
exactly.
we also have a timeline, right? So the maximum we can get from STEM is 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was also pressed for time still,
Yeah.
close to the expiration date. And then I don't want to wait, anywhere from 3 months to 8 months to get a decision. If I'm going to
Yeah.
get a no, I just want a decision so that I know what next I can do. And I think there are also people out there, if you are also in that situation, F1 OPT,
Yeah.
again, you have to wait till it's getting late. I think that was where I also made a little bit of mistake.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
immediately, so that you don't fall into that situation. Yeah.
All right. So you've turned in your application. Now you're checking your profile. Let me first ask you, how often were you checking your profile to see the update from USCIS? Because I know when I applied, and by the way, this is how I got my green card as well. When I applied, I would check my mailbox every single day. And I will also check the profile online because someone told me that, sometimes they may approve it, but it might not show up on your profile yet. So I would check my mailbox so much. So let me ask you, was it like once a day? Was it like every time you think about it? What was the frequency that you were going to USCIS update profile to check the update on your EB2NIW application?
To be honest, it was like 3 times a day. It was 3 times a day. But funny enough, the date was approved.
Yeah.
Check that day until evening. I don't know what happened. Maybe because I was already tired. Technically,
Yes.
I got like, I don't even know, the day they're just going to give me a decision, then that is it.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey,
Sometimes,
but you got approved in 15 days. That's record, right? When you
yeah,
saw that approval, what was the first thing that what was your reaction? Like when you saw that approval, what came to mind?
I was in the bathroom when this thing happened. So I went to the bathroom. So I was in the lab. So I went to the bathroom and
Yeah.
just like, okay, let me use the bathroom and then I'll be going home. And then I saw it. I was super late. I ran out. My boss was still around. I just went straight to where it was. I was like, oh, I told him early on when I
Yeah.
applied. So he was
Yeah.
premium processing is also risky. You want them to make a quick decision. That means they could deny you. They're supposed
Yeah.
to do that because they're going to be making hasty decision. So I said, okay, look at it. It has been approved. He was happy too. You
Oh,
know,
that's
he was the first person I spoke to, and
yeah.
I think I messaged you next. Yeah.
Exactly. That's amazing. That's amazing. So, who was the first person? So you ran to your boss to tell your boss. And by the way, that shows you have a supportive boss, right? Because there's some bosses that once something good happens for you, you're just thinking like, should I tell this guy? Like, how is it going to impact? But that just shows the kind of relationship that you have with your boss. But who else did you tell? Like, did you call your family? Like, what was that? What was that? What was that like, really?
Yes, so I spoke with my parents. I
Okay.
called them that night because they'd be bothered too. Because I wasn't selected, and I wasn't selected for each one B. It's a work visa.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was, and again, like you mentioned, not just my boss, my company they've been really supportive. And again, I would like to use opportunity to say that they are currently also looking at even exploring the EB one for me because,
Okay.
yeah, because they think that is current, and this just
Exactly.
time, right? So they are very supportive. My boss was like, we need to do something to ensure that, we
Yeah.
get something to keep working.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I reached out to my parents to answer. I called them immediately, so I just quelled that anxiety they've been having too. They've been very anxious, so they were super.
Okay, okay. Sharing a
Now,
lot of
over
as you're sharing a lot of details with us, but you're not telling us that you reached out to your girlfriend or anything. So for our listeners, you may want to head on to LinkedIn and look him up because he's sharing all this good news, but he didn't share with any girlfriend. So that should give us a hint. All right. Okay. So let's move on a little bit, just a little bit. Now that you have your I-140 approval and your feet are getting really firm in America, you're talking about getting your MBA and you're doing that already. That just tells me that you're really passionate about where you are and what you're doing. What does the future look like for you? Are you looking to continue in this path, or are you looking to, hey, you know what, I've got my green card, I'm out of here? What are you thinking?
I'm enjoying it, honestly speaking. I'm
Okay.
enjoying every bit of it. It's a nice, when you have like you're working in a place with a good, culture.
Yeah.
Environment is nice. Your boss is supportive. Not just your boss, the group. They are excellent and they are doing some wonderful stuff.
Hmm.
I'm working in one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies, not just in the US, in the world.
Oh
You know,
wow.
and in
Wow.
the US, our goal or the company's vision is that they want to be the number one pharmaceutical company in the US. Right now, they're in the top five. And my department, because we have different department or disease area. So my disease area right now is one of the biggest disease areas at Novartis. There's a lot of funding, for us to come up with a drug, for
Yeah.
obesity.
Mhm.
So it's quite interesting.
Mhm.
I just finished one project. I'm moving to another project called looking at adipocyte biology. But of course, I can't go into details, because that is
Of
something.
course, yeah. Proprietary information. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think I'm loving it. But the reason I'm doing the MBA is because, again, for many people who don't know, there's usually this ceiling or cap. If you don't have a PhD, there's so much you can go,
Mhm.
in the research part, which I'm
Okay.
doing. That is R&D. So you can't go all the way to become, even if you're going to become a principal scientist, eventually it's going to take you years, right? And may not even climb to the level of a director because you don't have a PhD.
Okay.
And I don't know if something I'm going to do in the future. So I said, okay, if I do an MBA, I can change, from R&D into maybe business development, operations,
Yeah.
portfolio management. There are so many people don't know. People just think, oh, biotech or biofarm is just all about R&D. There's so much department, so much, areas where you can,
Yeah.
can go into.
That's really good
An
information.
MBA that gives you that career options, So I'm
Okay.
still in pharmaceutical biotech, but I may not, be in R&D for too long.
Okay. And do you have like the support of your company to do this MBA, or is this like you have to fund this by yourself? Like, what does that look like for you?
The shocker already, the money I've spent on my MBA have already been reimbursed by my company.
Oh, absolutely. That's
Absolutely. So they are
amazing.
and they are aware.
Wow.
When I told my boss that currently the school is it's nothing to hide. It's the school I recommend because it's like
Yeah.
part of MBA right now.
Yeah.
Just it's mobile friendly. You don't have to be there physically, and they are
Yeah.
competing with the best MBA schools in the world. It's called Quantum Business School and Technology. But when I told my boss, the next thing he told me was like, "What happened to Harvard? This company's going to pay. Why didn't you go to Harvard?
What?
IT." It was,
You know, this company, I'm hearing good things about it, and I'm very happy that we're hearing first-hand information from you because you found a company that will back you up, even asking you to go to Harvard. That's excellent. That's good.
yeah,
You landed a good one. Yeah, I remember when you shared that you were going to switch to industry. Honestly, I was concerned because I felt that academia was a good. I mean, academia is great if you're going to H1B, but when we discussed it, you're just like, you know what, it makes more sense to go to industry. So I want to applaud you for even making that bold move and just landing yourself in a place where you're fully supported, your dreams are valid, they're encouraging you to go for it, go for it, go for it. But also it speaks to your, again, I say it again, the go-getter spirit, where you're just like, you know what, I'm going to reach out, I'm going to get what I need, I'm going to keep asking. I tell people, keep asking till you get what you want. Not everybody's going to say yes. Some people will say no, some people will not even respond. But I think it's important that you keep asking and keep knocking on those doors. Yeah, absolutely, that's good. So now, how much longer do you have for your MBA program?
so it's typically like a 1 year, 4 months program.
Okay.
So we're rounding off in December.
All right, all right, all right. Okay, so I really want to congratulate you again. You're outstanding. You're doing amazing things. In fact, for people who are just joining, we've been talking to Mr. Joel Imogwede Omage. He's from Nigeria. He moved to America for his master's in chemistry, and we're sharing his extraordinary success story with you just to encourage you. If you're stuck with your EB2NIW application, he said something. He said, "Hey, go get help." You may be outstanding, but even outstanding people need help, right? So if you're stuck, get help. He also talked about networking. That was something else that we picked up is you have to reach out, you guys. You have to go talk to people. And that's one of the reasons why I started the podcast is because I realized that I'm meeting all these amazing people who don't know each other, right? And I think it's important that you guys start to know each other. And so I'm bringing people who've succeeded, who we've been part of their success stories, to share their stories so that if you need to network, you know who to go to, you know what kind of questions to ask, you know what their profiles look like. He didn't have a PhD, he had a master's, he had a bachelor's degree, and he made it work. He had 3 years of research experience. He had 3 publications, 9 citations. He was a member of 4 professional societies. He mentored people, but he reached out and continued to expand that. So I think it's really important that we talk about these things so we can help each other and we can get to where we're trying to go faster, right? You don't have to do 10 years before you get your green card. You can ask the right questions, meet the right people, and of course, accelerate your chances of being successful in this field, okay? All right, so do you have anything else that you want to share with us that you think was pertinent to your success? Any parting words, any advice you want to give people who are right now in the process thinking, okay, should I go and do another PhD? I mean, I've spoken to a lot of international people. They've finished the first master's, they've enrolled for the second master's, they're about to do the third one, or even enroll for PhD. And I'm just like, why are you doing accumulating all these masters and just like they're trying to stay in status? What is your message to someone who is just trying to get into one master's program after the other, trying to play it safe and stay in status? What would you tell them to do just from your own experience in the US? I mean, when you came to the US, did you know anybody here?
No.
What makes you so bold to ask for these things that you need?
Yeah, so I would say seek for guidance, to get counsel.
Okay.
I remember I spoke with you, just to ask questions. People don't want to pay for those things. Is it 150, 200?
Exactly. Exactly.
Seek for help because information is key. I like the usual.
Right information, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do you're only limited to as much as you know. So I think you should seek for information and then you gather a lot of information, and that is going to propel you. That is what will propel you, to do the unthinkable. And again, you have to just make that bold step. If you don't try it, who are you waiting for to like tell you who I use my BSc to get an IW? Until
Yeah.
somebody tries it, that person could be you.
Yeah.
Funny enough, there's somebody now. We have a testimony of someone with BSc. I think 5 years of experience we just got approved in our group.
Oh,
So
amazing.
it's
Amazing.
doable. It's possible.
Yeah.
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 So all these things have to you just have to try. It could be you that people will use your testimony.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
make the next step too. Yeah. So don't wait for anybody. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast to share your story. For being so bold, of course. To some people who hear about these things. I mean, I remember back when I heard about EB2. Someone told me, "Hey, don't tell anybody because we don't want them to close this pathway." And I was like, "Why? We should share the information because this is a merit-based pathway. Even if it was not a merit-based pathway, I think we're obligated to share the information that we have so that other people can see the light and get to their destinations faster. We don't gain anything by hoarding information, or trying to be the only ones who have this. No, guess what? They're gonna give you this green card. They're still gonna have it for other people as well. All right. So,
Yeah.
just as you're, working in this company and there's someone in Nigeria who is thinking, you know what, America is so different from Nigeria. Like you shared about the culture shock that you. First of all, let me ask you, what was the greatest culture shock you experienced when you moved to the US?
The greatest, to me, it's always going to be the weather, honestly, because I think it's affected me. I was falling sick. I don't know, I'm sick,
Yeah.
and the people here, it's
Were
kind
you
of.
homesick a lot? Like, what is your position in your family? Are you the
We're
last?
three, we're three, and I'm in the middle. I'm the second child.
Okay. So you're independent. You're not one of those
Yeah.
people that's clinging to your parents or anything like that.
My parents really cared for us. They're always like, very, what did you eat in the morning? Even when I moved to the US, so I asked, what did you eat in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening? So my parents, we're not so clingy, but our parents are clingy to us. They're
Okay. Okay. All right.
much into
So,
what happens to us. Yeah.
so if there's someone in Nigeria right now who is saying, I want to move to the US, but I don't have the funds. Let's start from there. I don't have the funds to go abroad. You know, first off, when you came to America, did you already have a scholarship in place, or did you have your money all saved up for that master's program?
I would tell people get a scholarship because the US, most schools in the US give scholarship for graduate programs. Yeah,
Okay.
some that might not, but I think you should keep trying because that was also my situation. I got some admissions with that scholarship, but
Yeah.
I wasn't going to come here with that scholarship. You
Okay.
could use those saved up funds for something nice, but definitely there are schools, and the program, most of the programs here, they are funded, fully funded, so
Mm.
here with scholarship on grant, yeah.
All right, all right, all right. So on behalf of the EP2NW podcast, we say congratulations on your I-140 approval. Good luck with all the great things that are coming ahead for you. We're excited to hear about all these things, and we hope that you stay in touch just to let us know about all these successes that are happening for you. Again, congratulations, and we hope that when we reach out to you in the future to hear about all these wonderful things you're doing, that you'll be available to give us all the tidbits and the updates and everything like that. We're excited for you.
Absolutely. Big shout out to Dr. Ovid. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you. All right.